It is 9:31, called to order our regular business and meeting and consent agenda. We have no changes to the agenda today. So I would ask if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And this will be our first round for public comment. Of course, I know you guys are all here to comment on specific things, but do you have any general public comments to make? Okay, so we have no public comment today. Old business. Commissioners, have you had a chance to look at the minutes? What say you on that? Any motions?
Yes, I think they're good.
Okay. Motion to approve last week's minutes?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, last week's minutes are approved. New business consent agenda. We have no beer, wine, or liquor licenses before us. Everybody's looked at the county payables. Any questions or comments on those? Okay, we reviewed those. No cancellations or homeowners cancellations today. And then we have some unique things in front of us today. The transportation services contract with area agency. So I'm going to turn that over to you all to help us understand what we've got there. Go ahead and in fact, if you two want to just join the table, this would be a little less formal and a lot more efficient.
I can tell you a little bit about the history. The area agency has been a big partner with the county as far as for funding force riders, senior riders. It started, I don't know how many years ago, but the county was having trouble finding the match money for the federal dollars. And so we reached out to the whole community, and they were one of the organizations that really stepped up. And so they've paid us based on the number of senior riders that we have. We send them an invoice each month, and they reimburse the county. They have lost funding this year. Colleen can talk about that a little more, but they're not going to pay for fixed route boardings anymore, which was a big percentage of our funding, and they're only going to pay for the door-to-door services. So that's kind of the history.
And who was paying that?
That's the area aging.
Yes.
I always get those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Triple A lost a lot. Funding. It actually came to a cut of at least 60% when you were trying to average out. Maybe about a 60% loss of funding for this thing.
Now fixed route, what's the difference between the fixed route and just picking them up?
So we have a route that goes from Kingston to Mullen 3 times a day and has about 40 bus stops in between. And so that's the fixed route. It just stops at the bus stops all the way up to Mullen and then all the way back to Kingston and just does the same route over and over again. And so we also have a service too. We have a paratransit service. So that's anybody that can't get to a bus stop physically or for whatever reason, they have to have a form filled out. It's a federal form that their doctor signs, and then we'll go get them at their door and take them for door-to-door service. And as long as they live within 3/4 of a mile of the fixed route,
Okay.
then it's basically an ADA requirement of all bus systems in the whole country. That if somebody can't get to a bus stop for whatever reason, then we have to provide them with a alternate service.
And that's people only within 3/4 of a mile of the stop.
Of the fixed route.
Fixed route. Okay.
Yeah. And so we have very few actually that are approved. Well, we have a lot that are approved, but we have very few that actually use the system.
Okay.
The other service that we do is Coeur d'Alene trips on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so that's also a door-to-door service. And so we'll pick people up at their home and drop them off in the Coeur d'Alene area. And then they go to appointments or whatever,
okay.
and then we bring them back.
Okay,
Thank you.
so what we'd be asked to approve is just this reduced contract that they're, because that's all they can do.
Correct. And
Okay.
they'll go back at next fiscal year and hopefully have additional funding, but for this current fiscal year,
That's too bad for the seniors. Yeah. Okay. Any further questions from the board on that?
Any ideas? Does the community help at all with donations or businesses or?
They have in the past, yeah. We've had a tremendous amount of help. We haven't, in the last couple of years, we haven't reached out to the community, but in the past, we've sold advertising on the benches. We've just asked for donations when, a couple years when we were really struggling. And that we had quite a few partners that really stepped up. The hospital has donated a couple $1,000s several times for advertising and just to help. So I know they would probably consider it as well. Heritage Health has also been a big partner. The mine, Hecla Mine, actually helped us buy a bus at one point. And so, yeah, we've had a lot of help. And so I think that's definitely a possibility for the county if the match money ever were to become an issue again, that we could reach out to the community. And if the state, people from all over the state wonder how we do it, actually, because it's not a common thing to get that kind of participation from the community.
quarterly we do get random donations from people. People are still contributing regularly, so I still have a line on our ITD report, and there's a couple $100 every quarter that people still.
Do you ever get churches to support it? We had that first year when we asked for donations, Silver Valley Worship Center was.
I thought our church had done.
Donated a couple $1,000s, and so that we actually have their name on one of the buses.
Well, keep us posted on.
Yeah.
If we're to the point we need to get the word out again.
Definitely keep this going.
Well, the second one we have in front of us is the Northwest Medical Transport Agreement. And you are here to speak on that as well, right?
Yep.
So help us understand the history in that and what we're looking at.
So, the county contracts with Northwest Medical Transport to provide the labor, so driving labor and the overall management of the system. And so, it was a contract that started when we first started 10 years ago. The way it kind of initially started is the county called us up and said, hey, we have this money that used to be the nice North Idaho Community Express money, if anybody was around way back then. And we don't know what to do with it. The state has this money. Can you help us put together a bus system? And so we came over and just kind of took a stopwatch and started driving up and down. And we met with city councils and churches and all kinds of things, trying to figure out where to put bus stops. That's how it all started. The contract started, and then we went through the RFP process a couple times to update that. This update, our contract actually expired last fall, and we kind of slipped through the cracks. We didn't know that. We are asking for an increase in driver wages. That would be the only increase, and it's $2 an hour increase to driver wages as part of the contract, and then the rest of the costs remain the same. We haven't changed any of the costs since we started 10 years ago, other than driver wages.
And who's paying that cost?
So the Northwest Medical Transport hires the drivers and pays those costs, and then we bill the county by the hour for driver labor. And so it would be a county. The expense to the county would go up $2 an hour instead of, I don't know what it was, it would go to $23.95.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't bring my new thing,
Yeah.
Okay,
but it is on there and it just went
Yeah.
up $2 an hour.
but we haven't considered that in our budget yet.
That is budgetary, and this is up to you guys to decide how you wanted to do that, but the set aside in the LATCF money was meant to cover this match. So that could be the immediate need, because there was 3 or 4 years set aside of match funding that will compensate for that. And then we could, reach out to start offsetting that. But there is a budgetary item that will cover that. We just have to be aware of how long we're gonna stretch that out and have we And make those differences up over the
So
next
they'll
couple of
keep,
years.
the lattice money would cover
Correct.
for now.
And that was a big set aside, or a very advantageous set aside there is
So
4
that's-
years of
The
match.
guarantee
Yeah,
rate
it says
keeps
4
going.
years a match, so like you said, that if we have to, get sponsors in to come and help us with that match,
Sure.
then, so we've already got 4 years, but we could get
Mhm.
other sponsors to help out and, okay.
Yeah, and stretch that out as far as we can, because everything's shifting, and what that
Yeah.
match is, so Charlie and Northwest Medical takes care of everything. They do the hiring, the HR, the maintenance on the buses. They make sure that system is running appropriately. And then he sends us a monthly invoice that has all of that, plus we get the gas invoices from SMT where they do all their fueling. Then we submit that to ITD. So every 2 years, we have a contract that's a 5311. That's a Federal Transportation Administration funding to the state that they give to our local ones. So they pay for a pretty good chunk of what the operational costs are. And then we have that match. And that was what that set aside was with the LATCF, is to make sure that that match is paid for the 4 years. And, just keep really figuring out what the system looks like over that 4 years, and how do we make sure that it remains sustainable for the county.
What is the overall impact on the final budget, when you add up the $2 an hour per driver? Do you know what the total increase for the year would be?
I brought an invoice with me.
Let me look at one of the last ones.
Yeah.
Pulling out the laptop, we're getting serious.
My file cabinet. Okay, so quarterly, we have in labor, about 20,000. Let's see. I don't know, that's probably pretty average, or should I say 21,000 on that?
Part of that's the administration fee too, so that won't change.
Yeah, your admin is set aside, and this is just these three right here, that's specific to labor. So about 6,500, 7,000 a month is what the labor cost, the combined labor cost is for the 3 routes. So quarterly, about 21,000.
21,000 a quarter.
No, that wouldn't be the increase, that'd be the total.
Right, and that was for quarter 1. So the increase started in quarter 2.
I
It's
have
about a 10%.
Oh, they haven't done that.
10% increase, roughly,
so,
about $2,000 a quarter.
so I'm just gonna say about 1,000 hours a quarter.
2,000. Okay. So $8,000 a year impact on the budget.
We've been seeing $200 or $300 in donations every quarter. The AAA will have the most impact. That's gonna bring us down to about, what did we figure, about $600 a month? Down from $1,500 to $1,800. So it's a 2/3 decrease in that revenue that's coming in. So unfortunately, that's going to be about $1,000 a quarter as well.
We're gonna lose 12. there, and we're gonna add 8 here, so that's a $20,000 budget impact.
What is our, total match per year?
Oh. in this year.
So I think we've determined about an $8,000 a year impact for the wage increase,
Okay,
and about a $12,000 a year loss from this lost funding.
So our match runs around, so there's two different matches that we have that we report to ITD. We have the in-kind, which we need to kind of sit down and evaluate. And that comes up to indirect costs of about 6,500. That's gonna stay the same, or, that actually does need to be reevaluated, because that was 2016, the last time that was done. But our direct cash match runs 4,500-ish per quarter. So that would be increasing a little bit, just because of the differences in what's not coming in the area on aging. Because we put about 5,100 a quarter into that match part that decreases our match for the ITD. So ITD, like last quarter, we had a $43,000 operational. The full budget for operation of the bus was a little over 43,000. Then they come in and do their match, because there's 3 different categories and each one has a different match percentage. Our match for that is about 16,000. So then with the area on aging and the donations that we give in and the offset from the indirect costs that are just such a weird thing. It's match, but it's also part of the operational costs. So there's kind of a coming together on that. But our direct cash match after the federal funding and donations is about that 4,500 per quarter.
So if the indirect match were to increase, would that make the cash requirement go down?
I've got to get that figured out in my head, because the indirect, the in-kind that we put in also has to go into the operational costs. So that indirect increases the operation, but also decreases the match. So there's this weird balancing act. And each of the categories, one has an 80-20, one has a 57.9, 42.9, or 42% match. So, our match is weird depending on the category.
So the indirect stuff is made up of like your time.
thank you.
So commissioner's time working on this is just an indirect cost. The insurance that the county provides for the buses is an indirect cost. So you guys are paying those costs. So it's added into the operations and counted as part of your match. Keeping the lights on in the building is another indirect cost, just those kinds of things. And so those haven't been adjusted for 6 years. So there's a chance that we could adjust those, but like she said, raising those also changes the match. And so there's the massage that needs to go on. But
Currently, it takes into account the insurance that is paid for it, because there is an insurance cost to the county for the buses, because we basically own those and then lease them as a part of the contract for them. So they're county property, but
Those on our inventory.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
So there's insurance on those. The storage cost, which is definitely one we need to evaluate, was they were being stored out at the Smelterville site, correct? And so that was these are annual costs. There was $2,500 in insurance. There's $3,600 in storage, $1,200 in website, county non-cash, which is a lot of personnel time from all the different departments. Just the percentage of that came down to $7,900. The fringe, so paying the fully loaded rates for each of those employees was an additional $1,600, and then just office admin, so multiple other paper pushing and filing and things was $9,100. So that's where that indirect cost of $6,500 a quarter came from.
Okay. So right now, we okay this and this $8,000 a year impact. Our LETCF money is going to cover the.
And we'll definitely need to start working on some solutions.
Yeah.
And then, fingers crossed, the area on aging gets that increase back up, and so we can kind of start balancing that out. But, really figuring out what this looks like. We are the only system, to my knowledge, in Idaho that doesn't charge fees, and, the accessible and tourism and supports that. And so, there's a lot of different things that this supports in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
So keeping it is important, but we also have to make it sustainable.
And I think the advertising part of it's pretty neat that, we can do that and maybe we can offer more, to names on the buses and things like that for the ski resorts, or we've got a lot of different folks up there that might really use that.
How's the drivers been doing with unruly? Has that been going okay now, or is it still?
We're doing better, yes. We still need to change our schedule. We still are showing the Mullen Trail bus stop on our schedule, which has been removed at their request. It's kind of the same group of people as you can imagine. One of our main problem is supposed to be moving out of state this week or next week, so that will help. The other folks, that's the Joe and Navis that we had sent the letter to. Things have gotten much better with them as far as their attitudes on the bus and attitudes towards drivers. We got some complaints yesterday about hygiene issues with them, and that's a tough one to deal with. And so I'm not sure how we deal with that at this point, but yes, things are better. Good. Thank you all for your help so much.
Yeah. Do
Okay.
we have anything posted at each stop, the rules of the general rules of the?
We don't,
Bus.
and we've got the rules in the buses. The hygiene one is tough. We had a hygiene issue a long time ago, and it ended up getting the state involved, and the commissioners had to meet with the folks, and so it can be difficult because it turns into a disability kind of issue, and you can't just kick them off the bus because they stink, and so we have to tread delicately with that one.
Yeah.
So we'll do what we can.
Okay. Any further questions on this Northwest Medical Transport Agreement?
No.
No.
All right. The other issue on our consent agenda is the NPE grant transfer to Cascade Airport. You want to give us a quick report on that?
Yeah, the grant, our grant from ITD expires soon. We didn't have the funds matching it. So we're not using the grant, so they want us to transfer it to Cascade Airport, who needs it. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't. We actually have to, so
Because we don't have the match.
we don't have the match money to use it, so.
Any questions on that?
No.
Any comments?
No.
Okay. All right. Then at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as discussed.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Second. Last chance at discussion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So we will sign all these things and get them to you. Appreciate your efforts and your help, and thank you for helping us today walking through all this. It's a little bit complex sometimes.
It is, yeah.
So,
All the funding stuff gets really complicated.
Yeah.
Do I need to sign a copy of that while I'm here?
yeah, we'll take care of that. Let me wrap this meeting up.
Okay.
We have no public comment. We have no executive session need for indigent cases today, right, Sydney? Okay, so at this point, we are adjourned. Now we can sign, okay, whatever needs.